Cole Maddox had spent 10 years watching the sunrise over the same stretch of dusty prairie. 10 years, patching fences, breaking horses, hauling hay, and ignoring the hopeful glances of every eligible woman between Redstone Ridge and the Spanish Fork River. Because somewhere deep inside him, the rancher carried a vow, carved by Lassie, would never again risk giving his heart to someone who could be taken from him. His father died in a winter storm, his older brother in a mining collapse. And the girl he once planned to marry left for the city and never looked back, leaving Cole convinced that love was a kind of wound that never healed, only numbed. So when neighbors whispered about matchmaking, when widows baked him pies, when ranch daughters batted eyelashes and asked whether he ever got lonely on that big ranch of his, Cole just tipped his hat with a polite smile and said he was married to the land. Folks chalked it up to stubbornness, till the day an Apache widow named Tala stepped off a wagon with her little boy clinging to her skirts and changed the course of his quiet, guarded life. Cole first saw her on the edge of town, where a group of settlers argued with her over the price of an abandoned line cabin she'd claimed. Her tribe had faced hard displacement, her husband gone to illness the previous winter, and she'd traded every last possession to secure a place where she and her son, Coda, might survive. But the cabin was half collapsed, sitting on land the storms had chewed it for years. The settlers insisted it was unsafe and useless. She insisted she had nowhere else to go. Cole didn't mean to step in trouble, had a way of knotting itself around him whenever he tried to help anyone, but something in her stance, the quiet strength, the exhausted fire in her eyes, made him speak up. "The roof won't last another season," he said, tipping his hat. Even the ridgepoles split. Tala turned to him, sizing him up like someone raised to read truth in a man's eyes. "I only need walls to break the wind," she answered. "Anything more is a luxury." The settlers muttered that she was stubborn, ungrateful, too proud. Cole ignored them. "A place that's falling apart can kill you quicker than no place at all," he said evenly. "You and your boy deserve better than that." Her expression softened not with gratitude, but with suspicion. "Why do you care, rancher?" she asked. Cole didn't have an answer. He just knew he couldn't walk away. "Because sometimes folks need help," he murmured, "even when they won't say it." By dusk he found himself offering the strangest solution he'd ever spoken aloud, the use of his bunkhouse until she could rebuild somewhere safer. The settler stared like he'd lost his mind. Tala's jaw tightened, her son clutching her leg, his big brown eyes full of fear. She looked Cole up and down again, then said carefully, "You want a wife, or just shelter?" Her words struck him like a whip. Everyone else had pushed marriage at him. Now here she was, a widow with nothing left, not asking for love or promises but clarity. "No," he said firmly, "no expectations. You and your boy just need a roof." She searched his face long enough for him to feel stripped bare. Then she nodded, and that was how Cole Maddox, who had avoided women for a decade, ended up with an Apache widow and her child living 30 yards from his front porch. At first it was awkward as two stray cats sharing the same bowl. Tala kept to herself, cooking outside instead of using the small bunkhouse stove, repairing her son's worn moccasins with sinew she carried everywhere. Cole tried to stay out of her way, but somehow they crossed paths daily at the well, at the chicken coop, along the fence line where the winter wind already gnawed at the posts. Coda followed him like a shadow, fascinated by horses and saddles. On the third day, the boy tugged Cole's sleeve while he was checking a mare's hoof and asked, "Will she let me ride someday?" Cole smiled, kneeling beside him. "Maybe when you're big enough to tie your own boots." Tala had watched from a distance, arms crossed, expression unreadable. But that night she left a bowl of roasted corn on Cole's porch. No words, just a gesture. Slowly, the hard edges softened. Cole noticed Tala's quiet strength, how she worked until her hands bled, how she cut firewood like someone who'd learned to survive the unforgiving way. She noticed how he rose before dawn, never complained, and treated Coda with the steady patience of a man who understood the weight of guiding a child. But the world outside the ranch didn't soften. Two ranchers from town, Bentley brothers, mean as hornets, had wanted that same line cabin for grazing rights and didn't appreciate losing it to a widow they saw as less than them. They cornered Cole in town one afternoon, accusing him of meddling. "You think taking in an Apache woman makes you some kind of hero?" The older brother sneered. "She ain't your people, and she sure ain't your problem." Cole didn't raise his voice, didn't reach for the rifle strapped to his saddle. "She's a human being," he said simply. "That's enough." But trouble has a way of circling back. Days later, while Cole was repairing a washout on the north fence, the brothers showed up at the ranch. Tala had been hanging laundry, Coda playing in the dirt. The men approached, spitting insults, telling her she'd be better off back where she came from. One grabbed her arm. Coda screamed, and that scream carried across the field like a bullet. Cole dropped everything and he didn't shout, he didn't warn, he tackled the first man so hard they rolled through dust. The second swung a rifle but at him, but Tala kicked the man's knee from the side, sending him stumbling. When both men finally backed off, bruised and humiliated, Cole stood between them and Tala like an iron wall. "If you come back here again," he said, voice low and dangerous, "you won't walk away." The brothers fled, swearing they'd get even. When silence settled, Tala looked at Cole with something deeper than gratitude, something close to recognition, as if she'd seen a piece of herself inside him. "Why do you protect us?" she whispered. Cole wiped blood from his lip. "Because someone should have protected my family," he said. "I lost too many people I cared about." Her eyes softened. "You think caring is a weakness," she said, "but it's the only thing that builds anything worth keeping." That evening, Tala cooked inside the bunkhouse for the first time and invited him to share the meal. They talked for hours about grief, about rebuilding, about the strange way two lonely souls can recognize each other across all the scars life carves. Cole began rebuilding the old cabin she had wanted, not because he needed to, but because he found himself wanting her to have something she chose for herself. Day after day, they worked side by side, hammering, sawing, laughing, in rare moments when Coda tried copying Cole's movements, usually backwards. And one cool evening, as they watched the sun sink behind the ridge, Tala asked quietly, "Why did no woman ever win your heart, Cole Maddox?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at her, the strength of her jaw, the softness in her voice, the fire that had survived so much loss. "Because I was waiting," he finally said, "for a woman who wanted a partner, not a rescuer." Tala turned to face him fully. "And what do you want from me?" Cole shook his head gently. "Nothing you don't offer freely." She studied him once more, the same way she had on that first day in town. But now her eyes no longer held suspicion. They held possibility. "Then maybe," she whispered, "I could offer something." In time, they stood close, the silence warm, hopeful. In that moment, Cole realized something he hadn't dared to admit. He no longer feared losing someone. He feared never allowing himself the chance to love again. And Tala, with her courage, her resilience, her fierce devotion to her son, was the first person in a decade who made him believe that love wasn't a wound, but a way forward. As the wind swept across the prairie and the cabin's new roof gleamed under the setting sun, Cole understood that his life had already changed the moment she'd asked him, "You want a wife? Or just shelter?" Because now, for the first time in years, he wanted something more, something real. Something built with hands and heart and hope. And though the future still held storms, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He didn't want to face them alone. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because more powerful, heart-gripping Western tales like this are coming your way and you won't want to miss a single one. Asterisk.